We're here at the Angelika Cinema Outpost. It's a pop-up in Washington, D.C., a really cool area of D.C., too. I'm interested in exploring it later on tonight. Now, those of you who know the Angelika for New York City, of course, know it is home and a champion of so much independent cinema, particularly for us documentary filmmakers. Tonight, we're here seeing a film called Herricanes. It's about one of the first women's tackle football team. Yeah, you heard right. Women's tackle football team. And I mean, this is an incredible story. It's told by a documentarian who discovered her mom was one of the original players. And she grew up, as she said, thinking, well, everyone's mom was a football player in addition to being a mom. So it's quite a unique story, and it's even more unique to see it here in Washington, D.C., where as we speak, policy is being made left and right that goes against DEI hiring, that goes against EOE hiring, and it certainly flies in the face of something called Title IX, which of course granted these women back in the 70s the right to actively play sports, including tackle football. Just tell me a little bit what I'm in for.
You're in for the film on the first women's NFL tackle football team. I mean, the inspiration is in the early 70s. Did you even know there was women's tackle football?
No, I would have guessed, okay, maybe flag football, as they call it, or maybe touch football. We all played that. Tackle?
No, and these women wanted to do it. And I think what the cool thing for me about the film is that one of the football players' daughters is the one who's making the film. And so the question is, how many tackle football teams are there today? Do you know that?
Women's tackle?
Women's tackle football teams.
I'm going to guess maybe a baker's dozen.
Exactly. So I think what we're in for is we're going to learn these women that paved the way. And this was all about the same time that Title IX came out. Right, so this is the time. This is when women were entering sports from elementary schools, but this is professional football, the one sport that is America's sport, as we say.
Yeah, it's true. When you think about it and Title IX and what it gave room for, I'm always thinking more on the collegiate side, the school side, the fact that now gals and guys, because we did a lot of then intramural teams. I remember we had girls mixing in now with the teams, which was a great experience. But tackle football, I mean, that's a huge jump.
Well, that's what they were saying. Why don't they think women can do it, right? And it is a huge jump. And I think we're going to probably see in the film that the men, even some of the sports commentators were like, are you kidding me? Right? And who are these women? Who are these women that want to come out and actually tackle each other? Actually have that competitive spirit and have that team spirit when maybe women hadn't been playing team sports. They'd been playing tennis. They'd been running, but not tackle football.
So much of what you and I talked about on my way out here on the phone and whatnot on our Zoom call, we talked about the whole DEI thing, equal opportunity employment, and this change up, obviously, that we're seeing. That's why I had to come out to D.C. to see this film.
See it on the ground.
Yeah, see it literally in the battlefield, I'm afraid. But also this concept of perception, how we not only see ourselves, where we check the box, as it were, but also this sense of, how do these folks, whoever these folks are, see us? And where is that accelerate and where is that diminishing our potential ability?
Well, and like you said, I think it's interesting because as you and I've talked, there's a little bit about the perception that the media creates or the culture creates, the perception of where is the demand. We probably all would have said, or I was 4 or 5 in the early 70s, I probably would have said, do I want to play football? I don't even know.
Right.
But it's the perception, right? And we talk about that a lot in any group about when you build your confidence is when you can overcome and beat back or change the perception.
Now, you believe in the film and this night so much, you guys even sponsored it, huh?
We did. Well, for us, as we talk about often, a couple of things. Women in power. So women athletes are women in power.
Yes.
The sports industry is a business. Whether you're an athlete, coach, head of merchandise, head of concessions, this is an industry, a growing industry. Look what Caitlin Clark did to both viewership and revenue. This is an exciting time, and this is where women continue to break barriers. It's when they continue to show power, and you can continue to change the perception. Now we're going to go see women in football tackle uniforms tackling other women, something we don't see.
Well, I just have one more question. Can we stop for popcorn? And I saw they had some IPA ale there. Can we do that?
I'm thinking a little hazy ale and some IPA. Let's do
Let's
it.
do it.
Popcorn in a movie.
Let's get paid. I was talking to a guy. He's like, do you play sports? Yeah, I play football. He's like, football?
People don't like the idea of women hitting each other at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
As women, it's like, why wouldn't we want to play America's game?
Did you know that there was a women's football league in the 1970s?
No, I did not know that.
Take one, Mark.
This is my mom, Basha. She played full tackle football on a team called the Houston Herricanes. As a kid, I genuinely believed that everyone's mom played football. I now know that to be untrue.
The league was started by a talent agent. He thought that maybe the women would play in skirts. So the women showed up and they were like, well, you placed an ad for football. We want to play football.
Football coaches are writing letters to President Ford that say, Dear Mr. President, please don't destroy the sport that we know you love.
There was actually a sign on the door of my high school gym, no girls allowed. Why can't we go in there? We need to be strong too.
If this is the space that we're not supposed to play, when we do this, we can shift culture.
You were all fighting for a common goal, and that was the right to play football.
I can literally say that football saved my life.
It was just like a family.
I wanted to play football. There were other women who wanted to do the same thing, and together, what could we accomplish? You know, my goodness, what might we accomplish if we do this?
Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and make a trail.
The themes in the movie are timeless and universal for sports, and that's what I loved the most about the movie. Is I've never played tackle football, but that doesn't matter. I connected with the stories, the challenges, and the perseverance of the women in the film. As a lifelong athlete, as a woman in the sports industry today, the themes still resonated deeply with me, and that's what was touching. You don't have to love football, you don't have to have played football to connect on a very personal level with the film.
Well, it's so perfect, and this is why I said I had to come running down here to DC to see this film, too, and especially with Gwen Young and her team hosting this with you. It just was like, in contrast to everything we're talking about all over again. I mean, I sort of have taken it for granted at this point. That's my norm, too, and it's what I love. But now to hear that challenged and yet to throw it back to the original, I'm going to play on words here, defenders, and say these gals were the original Title IXers and doing it on America's great game of football, that is mind-blowing to me. How about you?
I viewed the film through the lens of a woman who was a daughter, but is also a mother, also a business leader, also a youth coach. And I reflect on my own experience, how many doors were opened for me that I didn't know were open, but then encountering along the way doors that were closed or tables where there wasn't a chair for me. So I've experienced both. Some doors that were open that women who came before me, who championed Title IX, my mom is an incredibly wonderful professional and community leader, opened doors for me that I didn't even realize were open until I was an adult and started to see the doors that were still closed to me. I now have the privilege of opening those doors for the young women who have worked for me and with me, and for my own daughter, and for future generations of women.
Now, in that case, we're talking about an all-male team, of course, right? So what do you think they could learn from the Divas if we did a nice exchange day?
Oh, gosh. We are fortunate, the DC Defenders are fortunate to have a member of the DC Divas, Lois Cook, as our in-game host.
Fantastic.
And what I would say across the organization, across the UFL, which is our league, but also across the DC Defenders as a football operations and a business operations team, is that spirit of teamwork and collaboration is seamless and authentic throughout. Nobody approaches any part of the business or any person in it without respect and collaboration. And so I think that we would find a really great synergy if we put the male athletes with our female business leaders and the female athletes together. I think there would be a really authentic kinship and connection that reflects the core values that we just talked about.
Rich, I just came out of that screening, as did you. I think you've seen it before, so you were a little more prepared than I was. I was blown away.
Totally, you have company, my friend. I saw the trailer. I did not see the whole production. So today was my first day as well.
I love it.
And it was absolutely exceptional. The way they weaved the ability to bring in the recreation footage The models set I thought was fabulous of a different way.
Yeah.
The ability to have as much of the original footage from the 70s that they had, it was also very powerful to help move it along, and then the photography and bringing them together at the end I thought was a beautiful way to again recognize and respect them, not just tell their story and how it might affect others.
It's true that bringing it all together at the end and allowing them that moment of regrouping, and so much that happens, of course, as we get older, right? We're able to put those moments that we're living as youngsters, as it were, into perspective because you're so in that moment. But when you step back and then you have that chance to regroup and go, wait, we have this shared memory and yours is similar. Yes, it's real now.
And someone else like you or someone like her on the other side of that camera realized that to the point of pulling it all together. And that feeling, having it not just come from your own selves of your own recognition, but seeing that recognition and respect come from outside in, powerful, as you could see from the film tonight. And as I know now from experiencing the DC Divas for 25 years in different ways, that has only grown over time.
Well, that's where I was going to go next, because you're also living it on a daily basis with your own trials and tribulations with the DC Divas and watching them just achieve incredible heights. First of all, some folks probably don't even know much about them. Who are they? Where did they come from? How did they get their start?
Well, if you didn't see tonight's film, I'll start with a comparison for a moment, and then I'll go back to if you didn't see tonight, where we might be and who we might be thought of. Our history is built from being at Eastern High School right next to RFK in 2001, moving to the Sports and Learning Complex next to FedEx Field in Maryland, and then into the St. James and other places in Northern Virginia since 2019 to really be a team of the DMV, to be made up of 60-plus women every year, who represent all different occupations, all the geography of the DMV, and then 3 players from Finland last year, as well as 1 from Austria, who actually in the film tonight, you saw the player from Finland who was Defensive Player of the Year in our league.
Love it.
So the international expansion, there's 30 teams or 30 countries across the world now that play. There's international championships, there's continental championships as you saw in the film, and then there are players that are doing the international exchange, as it were, coming from team to team and getting what that experience is like in the States or going the other direction. There's trials and tribulations, as you said, that were expressed in the film, from fundraising to awareness, the proper equipment, home fields, travel, the press, do they pay attention, do they not? Do men think you can or shouldn't? I mean, all the different types of challenges are still present today to some degree, just not to the same necessarily. But all of those challenges are still here.
So you're not passionate about this at all, are you?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm only trying to meet what I see, my friend. And that is the exceptional dedication and sacrifice and talent from these incredible women. And I've seen it now for more than 2 decades. And that has only built up, I think, my resolve and reserve to go forward and to say this is worthy. And more people should know, and more people will have a chance to support, recognize, and then ultimately for us to give value back and be helpful in the ways that we can do that with time, dedication, talent, sacrifice, and as we grow, will be dollars that we'll be able to give back as well and help grow things. So it's a good journey to be on.
Yeah, well, you really did meet the energy you got, because, of course, you started in one capacity with them, and you slowly upped that over the years with them. So give me the short version of that trajectory.
So in 2001, we heard that women were playing tackle football. It was their first home game at Eastern High School, and we're like, the curiosity factor alone got us to go and do a story. Minute 30 on the 6 o'clock news, they won on the last second play, and that was that. Except that we thought it should be an hour or a documentary version, much like we did on the Washington pro football team at the time. We covered them all the time. The sales department said nobody would watch, nobody would be interested, so we decided to follow them for the next 2 years on our own time, put together our own documentary, much like we saw tonight, with a lot less names on the end of the credits. And that began the journey of public relations, then becoming a general manager, and then after 15 years of that, having the opportunity to buy the team. Then over the COVID period, turn it into operating as a nonprofit. And as we continue to grow, we will turn it back into also a for-profit to marry with that and co-partners so that we can continue to grow the community efforts we do and everything with the nonprofit, and then start to stipend, pay, grow the opportunity for real professional opportunities for the women that play and the coaches and everyone else that's involved.
We're doing it just with the Capitol in the backdrop, with the White House in the backdrop, where we're discussing and challenging Title IX all over again, yes, diversity, equity, and inclusion all over again, when we thought, I'm sure you felt the same way, these are locked, loaded, and we are striving and thriving every day with these. What's that gasp that you're feeling going, no, I've got the proof?
There's a line in the film tonight, the gusto of a hound dog, which I had never heard before, gusto and a hound dog put together, but I'm going with that because it does take that level of resolve, I think, to recognize that while we were an example of DEI before those letters were ever put together, before there was initiatives or funding or more attention paid to that, we were a living, breathing example of that as a women's football team in 2001, and certainly in 1976 they were that. The Herricanes were just that. So there's an evolution there that is still ongoing. It's much like as well in the film, that there's no exactly a party, so to speak, that you arrive at victories along the way or maybe plateaus that you build from, but there's no we have arrived or it's over. There's just these opportunities to continue to grow, evolve, and hope that we bring more people into that evolving nature and appreciation in this case for what these incredible women put forth on a daily basis, not only to work, have families, have career, all the different occupations and things that they go through and challenges, and then play football on top of that. It's just absolutely exceptional.
Yeah, I also say so much of this is about perception in this conversation. And for example, I would have to say you're probably the DEI hire at this point in the league.
That's right. I've stayed long enough to have that turn around, which is a thankful thing, isn't it?
Isn't it a beautiful thing?
It is a beautiful thing, yes, indeed.
I think, though, the trick is you got to be comfortable in who you are and love what you do.
Which is totally easy to do, challenging, but yet easy to do in so many ways. When I see, the level of dedication and sacrifice and talent around me, it helps to bolster and to have that gusto of a hound dog.
Come on, let's go, D! Way to D!
My favorite place.
Trust you.
Let's go get it.
It's been so interesting to see that changeover, right? I'm from a generation where we were already doing a big thing about, whoa, female reporters, and female reporters going into the men's locker room. Uh-oh, right? We don't even know or want to think about what they were up against back then.
Exactly.
But now that's normalized, right?
Yes.
And now we're seeing, wait, who's that officiating on a game?
Yes, I love that about it, because right now, like women's football and just women in sports, it's here, it's now. And I just can't wait to see where it goes next.
But you get back to these numbers, box office numbers, this still is a business. How is that changing? What's your anticipation for that?
I mean, of course, my anticipation will always be grandeur, Like, of course, it's not where it should be right now, but I know that it's climbing as time goes on, but it's still not where it needs to be. I feel like in the next coming years, hopefully with the emergence in flag football, as well as the women in soccer doing great, I know that the game will just develop even more, and the feel for it.
It's also so interesting. I said I have to come here from New York to DC to see this film. I could see it in LA, I could see it in New York, I could see it in Houston, I'm sure. But to see it here, just with the Capitol in the background, where policy is being made, and right now, not being made in a very wonderful manner that's going to support Title IX, let alone EOE.
Right.
What's your worry?
My worry is that women in sports will get lost. And I don't want that to happen. That's why I'm here today to, prove that we are here. I wore my jersey on purpose to prove that we do still play, that we're out here fighting the good fight for women in sports, or just women in general. So I don't know. I'm nervous, of course, naturally, but I'm still going to be here on the front lines fighting the good fight. Yeah.
What's your hope for the future? What's your shout out to the next generation?
Keep going. Keep going. Keep pushing through. Do not let any of the naysayers say anything that will affect you. Just let it bounce off. You have people like me willing to advocate for you. I have a whole slew of friends and other teammates that are here for you. And I want to make sure that you guys are happy and healthy and safe. So keep going. That's all I can say.
Well, women's football certainly has a new friend in me, too. It was a great experience to see this movie. I hope to watch the Divas also play a game and come out the victors.
Yes, thank you so much.
We always talk about standing on the shoulders of the giants that came before us.
Yeah.
Seeing that film, I got to imagine that is just bubbling up from inside of you.
It really is. It's like looking in the past, but looking in the future at the same time. Like seeing all the work that they put in to get us to where we are now was just, it's almost overwhelming, honestly.
Now, what flack did you hear? What flack did you get from loved ones, from family going, you want to do what, when, how?
Oh, still, I had cousins and family saying, oh, girls can't play football. My daughter's teacher, she was like, girls can't play football, so you're obviously lying saying that your mom plays football. So,
whoa.
Yeah, so I've heard it all.
Now, are they converts now? Have they come to a game and they've seen, in fact, not only women play, they really can play?
Yeah, some of them have come to a game. They've seen how hard we hit, that we go just like the men, and it's changed a lot of their minds.
But I kept going, dang, those are real hits. I don't think I could survive that one.
Yes, Mack Truck Monday is real. We hit very, very hard.
What's your hope? Because you talked about young people, you talked about your daughter. What's your hope even beyond football? What does this demonstrate? Especially, I had to come to DC, where we're questioning Title IX and so much more, DEI, all this for I don't know what reason and I don't know what gain. What is the message here that you think not only this film, football, but also just women pushing forward, women of color pushing forward and standing tall, even with a few men saying, we got you, girl, we got you.
We finally get seen, we finally get a chance, and I mean, there are people and entities trying to take that away from us right now, but I feel like it gives us that push to fight harder. Like, we're not going to let anybody take what we've already built so far.
I'm going to put you on the challenge for us as guys, okay? Here we are, two older guys now. What is that one call out to the gentlemen going forward, those young gentlemen in the making? What do we need to up? What's your call out to them and what they need to work on, improve, and welcome some of these ladies in?
Well, if you're talking from a media standpoint, which is where it all begins in some fashion about how a wider audience knows about how great these wonderful women are, that had to be something I broke through 20, 30 years ago. Right? So if I'm capable of doing that at that time in life, I got to believe that there's more young men and women that are capable of understanding the importance of covering this, seeing the level of growth that there is, and opportunity for women as there are with the Defenders and other teams to be a vice president, to be a president, to own the team, to do all these different things in sports. That's probably the greater point. It's not about just football. It's all these wonderful things that can happen in sports, both on the broadcast and all the other ways for now women, with over 40% of the NFL office being employed. There's a women's, 10 years ago it was probably 4%. Very low numbers. So to see all these opportunities inside the level of sport would be the thing I would want to reiterate to anyone who's involved, however they come at it. As a fan, as someone who's covering it, as someone who wants to invest in it. Give it a chance, give them a chance, and I think you will be pleasantly surprised, if not already reaffirming your belief system that it is worthy of doing and seeing and supporting.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this is almost a social justice opportunity. I know you mentioned it's a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
How do folks get involved to support the Divas?
DCDivas.com. It's a front door with a donation and a booster club and all the different ways you can easily make a tax-deductible donation to support our efforts. We have camps and clinics for, as I said, adult women, but also the young girls. We do those year-round. And, of course, we have the ongoing education, which I go back to the classroom. We're an ongoing education platform that is centered around the sport of football, the teamwork and all the qualities that you learn from that. It's not about just a play. It's about the camaraderie and the working together point that I think is overarching, and there's many specifics of that relate to everything we do. Wherever we go back to, community, church, job, family, they all are powerful and work, and they're cultivated by being part of the Divas. So if there's somebody out there who'd like to contribute and help us in any which way, DCDivas.com is a way to begin to do that. And there are other ways certainly that we could do it. Maybe you want to play.
I love it. Let's close on 3 with the Go Divas. Right to the camera. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go Divas!